Within this ever-expanding plethora of automotive definitions we hear nowadays, it seems there's still one that causes more confusion than it does any good. And that is, what is the true boundary between what makes a premium vehicle versus what makes a luxury vehicle? I mean, I know anybody could take a car of any brand, size, or shape and fill it with all kinds of exotic materials, the latest technology, making it look beautiful, give it a missile for an engine, and then on top of it all, taking the whole package and shoving the price tag right through the roof. That, in most minds, is what makes a luxury car. But just last year, I was driving a brand new mainstream crossover in the midst of being incredibly sick at the same time. And I wasn't going sick in the head, but I was thinking, am I driving a premium vehicle or am I driving a luxury one? Well, now for 2025, that same mainstream moniker has launched a sibling to the one I drove before, and now it too is aiming for the top.
I swear, I never cease to be amazed by the fact that I could drive so many different luxury branded vehicles over the years, and yet I could easily step out of one of those and drop my rear end right into this brand new 2025 Mazda CX-70, and I almost feel that there's not that much of a difference. I mean, sure, the badge might be different and the styling inside and out is definitely different, but if you look at the formula where the real meat and potatoes lies in this thing, it sounds like a very European-esque car. It doesn't sound like something that was made in Japan. I mean, I've got an all-wheel drive system where the steering is so much more dynamic. It can be a little bit soft when you're driving a little bit slower, and even at higher speeds, there is a little bit of numbness going on. But yet, when you really need it the most, it has so much more of a dynamic prowess. It's insane just how this car can change personalities so quick. I've got an 8-speed transmission that is silky smooth, and it doesn't feel like it loses anything in between the gear changes. And then, of course, the icing on the cake is Mazda's brand new 3.3-liter turbocharged and hybridized inline 6-cylinder engine. Now, even though it is not as powerful as one of its greatest competitors with the new Toyota Grand Highlander, which incidentally has 2 less cylinders than this new CX-70, it doesn't feel like it's lacking anything compared to the Toyota. But there is so much more drama with an inline 6 than you will ever get out of any 4-cylinder engine. You just turn this Mazda Intelligent Drive up into sport mode, put your right foot down a little bit harder, and all of a sudden, oh man, that is a laughing stock of an engine. It sounds so good. It's silky, it's melodic, it tingles your senses even more than it should. I mean, it's a grin machine. And it has room for 5 people and a whole load of crap in the back. But while speed and performance definitely are one of Mazda's aces in the hole that they've had for, I don't know, as many years on end as I can remember, it's always been the comfort level of premium and luxury vehicles that I think really are the main dividing line. And this one I think is sitting right on the edge, but it's only because Mazda loves to give basically every car they create that extra wallop of sportiness right where it counts. And while things like the engine, the transmission, the steering, and all of that would suggest that Mazda's on the right track, I almost think they're trying a little too hard. And I had the same problem with the CX-90 that I drove last year. The suspension is a little too firm for my liking. And with that being said, combined with slightly larger wheels and tires that we have on this particular car, it is a little much. It's like watching a PG-13 movie. You know, it's a little bit of fight scenes, it's a little bit of swearing, there may be some blood in there as well. So it's not befitting for every single crowd. But I think if you really focus hard enough, you could see through all the blood and the guts and the abusive language. And you do see a real diamond in the rough here. It's a great car to drive, and yet it's even crazier to know that if you're around my age and somebody who still has a bit of gas and oil in their veins, that all it takes is one flick of a switch and this car's personality turns completely upside down. Oh, I swear, the gas pedal that hides under my right foot is just the most addicting one I've ever felt in a family crossover. I mean, yes, I know it's not a BMW X5M Carbon Edition competition, whatever you want to call it. But for a sub $60,000 Japanese crossover, there's something inside of my automotive psyche that just keeps saying, do it, do it, do it. Little further down, little further down. Just, oh, just that initial rush is so much fun. It's hard to put my finger on whether or not this is truly a premium car or a luxury one. I think we need to take a look at the rest of this thing to figure that out.
And if I wasn't confused enough about why this new CX-70 is $4,000 less than the CX-90 that I drove last year, well, I'm scratching my head even more, because looking at it from the outside, I feel like I'm seeing the exact same car, but that is for a very distinct reason. Mazda hasn't gone crazy with just building another brand new car. They have stuck to what they know, simple yet elegant, and it shines through in every single car that they make, especially on this new CX-70 here with the rhodium white premium pearl paintwork. This car is absolutely gorgeous. Even as the clouds come over right now, this color combo is right in my wheelhouse. And again, Mazda's little tips and tricks are ever apparent, like the LED turn signals here that are fixed into part of this dark chrome surround for the grille here. They don't just blink on and off, they fade in and out. It's just a nice little elegant touch to an otherwise simple item. The headlights, adaptive LED headlights with auto high beam assist, high and low. You do have your park assist that goes across the middle here, standard on the Turbo S. Same thing with your 360 camera. The inside of the grille, gloss black to break up the white, a beautiful contrast. And talking about the grille, it does provide a lot of cooling here. It's nice and open here up top, and you even have a little bit more of an opening along the bottom. And if you think the front of this car is making enough of a statement already, well, wait till you see the rest of it. And if the styling wasn't enough to throw you off, get a load of this. Between the CX-70 and the 90, there is no difference in length. 200.8 inches for both vehicles. However, the 90 does seem to have a little bit of an edge, because in some cases, numbers have shown that that car can be as long as 201.6 inches. But that's fractions compared to the giant differences that we see between variations in certain models and other manufacturers. But speaking of size, Mazda always seems to have a way to get me with their wheel design, and I am loving the 21-inch standard alloy wheels here on my test car. I love the black painted background with the machine face on the front. You've got those huge brakes sitting behind with their regenerative braking, and of course you have to have some pretty decent performing rubber, so this has 275/45 series Falcon tires all the way around. But unlike those brash luxury cars that try to tempt and tease you with all their curvature and artisticness on the side, the CX-70 is a bit more refined than that. And again, it goes back to how Mazda designs their cars to begin with. A very simplistic amount of curves will do. I mean, you have a little bit going around the wheel arch here. You have a very minute crease going right underneath the windows. But again, she doesn't need to be a big, curvy, tempting mistress in order to draw you in. In fact, really the only outstanding details here on the side would be the inline 6 badge here right on the fender, a sign of what hides up under that hood. Or maybe it's the dark chrome little distinctive signature there along the bottom with Mazda integrated right under the rear door. But other than that, there's really nothing too crazy about looking at this car's side profile. You do get a little more color to break it up. The gloss black here on the mirrors, they're power folding, they have the cameras underneath, LED turn signals in the side, of course things like blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, those are included as standard on this model as well. And if you look up top, surprise, surprise, we've got a panoramic sunroof on this one, which again, I'm happy to see it doesn't go the full expanse of the roof, so it does have a little bit more structure there to keep you safe. And then we get to Mazda's advanced keyless access. No surprise, the key is exactly identical to all the other Mazdas I've driven recently. All the buttons here on the side, lock, unlock, power tailgate, panic, and even the separate key blade that can be taken out from inside the fob itself. And of course, to get in or out, it's all activated by touch. Right now the car's open, so if I want to lock it, just touch the little indented portion on the side. You can see the mirrors automatically fold in as you would expect, and then to get in or unlock it, just grab the handle as normal. And again, to go back to the CX-70 for a moment, this car I think suffers from exactly the same issue when it comes to its rear end. It really is pulling a Hank Hill, just to keep using the same phrase here, because, well, between the power tailgate and the rear bumper, there's just this minute little lip going on here. It almost looks completely flat or flush in a way. And most cars, at least in the same segment, have at least something to say there is a difference between the rear bumper and the tailgate. But that's really the least of my concerns, because the design is still very elegant. Again, same as the 90, we have full LED lights back here, turn signals, reverse lights. The LED light design is gorgeous. I love how it integrates more towards the Mazda badge in the middle. You've got an LED brake light up top as well. You've got all the signature badging. You've got your park sensors that I was talking about as replicated on the front as well. And one good thing is that Mazda hasn't gone crazy with any kind of big exhaust finishers to let you know about the big inline six that hides up front. However, they are not shy about letting you know that there is some technology going on back here, or maybe not, because I walk up to the back, kick my foot under the rear tailgate, and suddenly it pops open and rises up to reveal a cavernous amount of space here in the back. And this is where I think I would choose the 70 over the 90. Despite the numbers on paper being virtually identical between the two cars, I just love that there's a much more cavernous space back here and not some third row seats that I have to fold down in order to get more space out of the back of my crossover. You look underneath the floor here, you can see there's a little bit of storage going on, but not too much. You have buttons here that you can fold down, that second row of seats right there. But overall, behind the second row is 39.6 cubic feet of cargo volume. You fold those down, however, you're looking at 75.3. That is more than enough space to fit really even the largest of objects back here, let alone I could probably sleep in the back of this car. I'm right around 6 feet tall, and I could easily see myself putting a pillow against that front seat and just laying everything down and basically turning this car into my own mobile bedroom. Now, if you're the sort of person who prefers upscale, lavish interior appointments versus style and substance on the outside, well, if you're not seeing what's going on in here, then you're blind. This is still one of the most beautiful interiors I've ever gotten my hands on, and it's even more amazing knowing that it's not coming from a distinguished luxury manufacturer. Mazda continues to kill it with their interiors in every single car that they make. And again, being that this CX-70 is so heavily based on its older sibling, the interior is just, it's a mix match of all kinds of materials. Alcantara on the dash. I love the Alcantara insert in the middle of the seats. I even love the two-tone going on in here with the black up top with what Mazda calls tan for the rest of it, but I like to call it a toasted caramel, just to use another manufacturer's term. But it's just two-tone beauty everywhere. The Napa leather-lined seats here, the black stripe in the middle to finish it off, the Alcantara in the middle, even down to the two-tone on this leather-wrapped heated steering wheel that is a signature feature on the Turbo S Premium Plus. And the same thing goes with the seats too, which also are heated and ventilated. But
it isn't just about the color or even the materials. The tech is crazy in here. Not only is the steering wheel beautiful, but the buttons, despite being simplistic, are all I need. I've got multimedia controls, Bluetooth, I've got the info button for the first of two 12.3-inch digital displays in here. The most obvious of which, of course, is your digital gauge cluster, which has a very simple yet elegant theme. I know I keep saying that, but it really is. It's very beautiful to look at. The numerics and everything are just what I would expect from a Mazda product. And I even look up a little bit higher and I find there is a third screen going on in here with the active driving display, better known as a heads-up display to you and me. But still, the steering column, power tilting and telescoping. I've got little paddle shifters here on the back of the wheel, which I'm not so much a fan of those. They're just a little too small for me. But then once your gaze shifts from what's in front of you to what's in the middle, that is where the second of those two 12.3-inch screens comes into play, in the form of a touchscreen system containing Mazda's newest version of their Connect infotainment system. Now, the touchscreen's a little bit interesting. You kind of have to do the reach in order to use it, so most people will probably prefer to use the little control station down here in the lower console. But all the same, aside from your navigation system, which has gotten a little better over the years, but it's not really the greatest thing I've ever seen, it has everything else you want. Bluetooth, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. It even has Amazon Alexa built in, not to mention the display for your 360 camera that I was talking about earlier. And while all of this stuff is great, I still prefer to enjoy some tunage while I'm driving a car like this, even as smooth and quiet as it can be. So Mazda has provided with this car a rather lackluster sounding 12-speaker Bose audio system. Now, it isn't who the speakers are made by, it's just how many of them that I think kind of puts people off. I mean, it's a $60,000 car, there or thereabouts, so you would expect to maybe have 20 or 25, right? But still, the 12-speaker system in this car proves that even a minimum amount of speakers can pack one maximum punch. And even past the screen, the idea of simplicity still just continues in spades in here. I've got the front half of the tri-zone climate control system here, which I'll admit does have quite a few buttons going along the bottom, and they are a little on the small side, but you've got the little details like these almost piano keys going on for your temperature controls, your auto AC, your sync function. It's very elegant, but again, simplistic. And I think that's, again, the theme we've just seen going on so far. You've got a wireless charger. I've got a pretty decent set of dual cup holders here, which is big enough for, say, a 20-ounce bottle of soda to fit in. Maybe not something like this. I think that's just a little too big, but all the same, you've got your Mazda Intelligent Drive button. And then you get to one of the most peculiar shift mechanisms I've ever seen in my life. I could understand, like, if the stock was sticking straight up and you just kind of moved it in different directions to select the gears, but this one, well, park is on the left, and then you click the button and move it to the right, where you can then control your reverse, neutral, and drive. There is no manual mode in here, by the way. You have to use the paddles for that one, which, again, I think manual mode's kind of unnecessary in a car like this anyway, even with as much brute force as that motor up front provides. But then again, you go to the middle, you've got your little control station for the infotainment, should you not prefer to use the touchscreen, and then it's all finished off with a split-level center console. I mean, what more do you really need in here? Now, if somehow you find yourself locked in a bit of a personal battle as to which of these new CX flagships deserves your hard-earned cash, and also you may be more of a backseat lover versus someone who likes to be driving or at least up in the front seat, well, I would say you can't go wrong with either one, but the CX-70 definitely wins my vote as far as being the most comfortable in terms of rear seat space. With only 5 seats, there's really not much that can go wrong back here. The bench seat is incredibly comfortable. I can even lean it back a little bit, well, maybe a bit further if that cargo cover wasn't there, but the comfort level isn't lost between the front and the back. I mean, you have the typical stuff like your sunshades and your USB-C chargers, but I also have the rear half of that tri-zone climate control system. This particular car as well also heats these outboard rear seats, so it's nice to know your butt will at least be relatively toasty when the moment calls for it. But still, the main thing is that there is so much room for my knees in here at over 6 feet tall, sitting directly behind myself, and there's even more room for my head than I ever thought there would be. So if I really was caught in a tie between the 70 and the 90 as to which one I'd rather be in the back seat of, I think I'd rather sit here.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this now wraps up our review and drive of the brand new 2025 Mazda CX-70. And I will say, after spending a whole week with this thing, it is that close to being a true luxury car in my own personal book. It's drop dead gorgeous inside and out. The performance is silky smooth. And the only thing I think that's holding it back at the moment is just Mazda needs to turn down the sporty knob just a little bit. I think with that slightly stiffer suspension, it kind of threw me off. I'm used to luxury cars being a little more soft and a little more comfortable. This one, I think, still has more of that Mazda sportier edge. But in any event, if you guys have enjoyed this review today, or perhaps you learned something about the new CX-70, or maybe even its sibling, the CX-90 at the same time, give this video a thumbs up. And also, while you're at it, hit the subscribe button down below, because trust me, without partnerships like Mazda North America, and definitely without subscribers and viewers like yourselves, I probably would not be continuing on the path I am right now. But in any event, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.